It's an interesting time to be a person that likes little sports cars because we're told electrics are coming and the best-selling market segment is what's called compact SUVs, 5-seat SUVs.
Tesla has been responsible for forcing every other car company on the planet for reevaluating their entire product lineup.
So if our future is a compact electric SUV, let's talk about that because Tesla's not the only player anymore.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love.
Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
Tesla's been kicking everyone else in the face for quite a while now. This is their compact 5-seat SUV called the Model Y. It's competing in a very quickly growing market.
It's interesting when you drive a Tesla product back to back with something from Ford and Volkswagen, two of the longest running, largest car companies in the world. What you notice right away is that Tesla is a boutique manufacturer. In the same way, if you drive a Porsche and then you get in a Lotus, the Lotus does many things very well, but it doesn't feel like it was built as well because the company doesn't do it as well or as much. That's the case with a Tesla.
I know there were a lot of deliberations internally at Ford as to whether or not they should use the Mustang name on something like this. But Ford tells us the biggest connection between this and what we know to be Mustangs is progress.
Ford is definitely building something that is the midpoint between I've only ever driven gasoline cars and a full electric car like the Tesla that is completely different thinking. By naming this a Mustang, they've made people care. They've made people notice. Now, they've also called into question, is this something that is worth the Mustang name?
The first vehicle on Volkswagen's worldwide Dieselgate apology tour, we get the 5-passenger ID4.
Like Ford, Volkswagen has had other electric cars in the US, but they've all been electric versions of other cars they make. This Volkswagen ID4 is the first car from that automaker in the US that is from the ground up built to only be electric.
This doesn't feel like a first effort though. It feels like a real car. It feels like a well-engineered car.
All of the stuff they know about making a good car, putting it together well, that's definitely on display here. We're all hearing that electric cars are the future and electric cars are coming, but they really are still designed for somebody that has a charger in their garage at their house in the suburbs. If you're a person that lives in a high-rise or some gentrified old warehouse that's now become your really super cool loft, where are you charging this car? Because you don't have a Tesla supercharger, which rules everybody as far as infrastructure is concerned.
The Teslas have the best battery capacity, best mileage, best usability, and the best charging network.
Ford has tried to make the charging part of this as painless as possible. You can drive up to any EV Go or random charger system. You can touch your card to it, plug it in, it starts charging. You should have it that easy. Not everybody does that, Volkswagen, but there is something subconscious about charging all night and seeing a number under 200.
But it's cold outside, and 100% charge gave me about 160 miles range. Volkswagen wants you to charge this on the Electrify America network, which is founded and owned by Volkswagen.
Electrify America is part of the restitution that Volkswagen is doing for the Dieselgate problems. We had a lot of trouble finding an Electrify America plug to plug this one into, and once you actually plug it in, there's a couple steps for it to let you know it's actually charging.
This was plugged in overnight. It said it was at 78 capacity, but it had 201 mile range. The capacity for this battery is 270 miles. Again, you're seeing temperature affecting the battery range.
There's an LED strip right at the base of the windshield. When it is officially getting power, it then fills like a status bar and shows you the section that isn't filled yet that needs to fill. This is talking to you with a blinking light. It's HAL from 2001. So when you don't get it plugged in right, it's, "I'm sorry, Dave. That's not the power I need." The minute it blinks red, I'm getting out of the car.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Griot's Garage. Use the code EDRIVER for 10% off your order.
Because the architecture is all the same, we're looking at electric cars by virtue of styling. That is the difference. That is what sells. I like the arc of the roof, and I do like the ducktail spoiler. The headlights and taillights are now a signature look for Tesla, as are the door handles. The frunk on the Tesla actually has quite a bit of space, but sitting here, you can't see the hood. It drops away too dramatically, and from a side view perspective, the hood is too small, and the rear end is too tall. The driving position on the Model Y is actually quite good, and the front forward visibility is excellent.
I don't like not having any kind of screen straight ahead of me as a driver, and you would think they would have done a heads-up display. None of that is here. All of your information is piped to one place, which makes it much more straightforward and easy to build. That is the truth of it, but it happens to be this amazing interface.
The software is unparalleled. At a stoplight, well, you can see cars passing you, but look, it's actually identifying everything around you, all the traffic, even showing you the stoplights, because that will tie into every other mode this car has. What electric vehicles have done for discovering interior space is astounding. But the interior doesn't have to look like this.
If you're a person that believes that minimalist is also luxurious, you're going to love it. But this is just a stark interior with very average seats. The back seats are terrible, genuinely awful benches. The use of space, because it's blank sheet thinking, is far above everybody else. But the way everything feels a level below everyone else for a similar cost or even more.
I have been skeptical, just like everyone else, as to whether this is a real Mustang or not. The lines are aggressive, and the silhouette is really what makes this a Mustang.
All of those blacks offset the actual color you pick on this car and make it seem more svelte than it actually is. The reality is this is still a 5-seat SUV. It is a large car. It is every bit as tall and wide as the Tesla, which seems very bulbous, but they didn't do the styling tricks that happened here on this Mustang Mach-E.
Ford has decided to just put buttons on the exterior of the car. There's a tiny door pull for the front doors, but it's not a single motion. You have to push and then pull. Whereas on the rear doors, you push the button in the rear, and then you stick your fingers in the crack, negating what every parent has taught their child for years and years and years.
Disobey what I've told you before, kids. Stick your fingers on into that crack and pull the door open.
There's visual interest going on in the interior. Textiles, there's a carbon fiber look trim with some stitched leather material. Feels friendly and engaging and modern.
Ford has set out to make a car that hints at the Mustang with these two kind of eyebrows on the dashboard. They also have kept a gauge cluster in front of the driver.
The dash card, and it has the fear bar, how much range you have left, and it has your speed. All the stuff your eyes drop to look at constantly. This is brilliant. The entire screen here is so well thought through. There's a lot of information to sort, but if you're ever wondering what to do, just start with the icon top left and you'll start with drive mode. So you've got controls, settings, there's a lot to get through here, but it makes sense.
Thank you, by the way, for a volume knob and a power button in the dead center. That just makes so much sense, and it's so easy to grab and not even look at. This feels like this is a normal car that happens to be electric.
I think that's what people will connect with and relate to the most. But there's something missing, and that is noise, and Ford knows this. There's a faint digital V8 noise coming out of the speakers. It's styling and sound, and Ford telling us that forward progress, which is what this is doing for the entire company, that's what a Mustang means. And I'm trying to swallow that marketing as much as you are.
Everywhere you read about this car, anything in the press materials, any of the public commentary, Volkswagen is awfully excited about their first foray into electric vehicles.
It is rear-wheel drive with the electric motor in the rear, and Volkswagen says, it's just like the original Beetle. No, it's not. The shapes are quirky, they're new, they're different, they relate everywhere on the car, exterior, interior, all these shapes relate, and I like the styling everywhere.
This is the cheapest car here at $44,000, and the interior is probably a mid $30,000 interior. However, it's put together very well. Volkswagen has started completely over with their user interface. If I go here to the assist mode in the hard buttons underneath the screen, you can see all of the driver assist features that are available on this car. You're actually looking at a picture of the car or of the features, and that's what you're touching. This is actually far quicker to learn than something that is a list of features. Even though the interface is great and what it's doing behind the scenes is excellent, the speed is kind of unacceptable.
Hello, what happened to my screen? Well, apparently my screen just went dead. The small one still works, which is what I need, and it's good to know they're not connected, but it's coming back. Rebooting, and we're back.
In their effort to make a rolling computer, Volkswagen also hasn't given you traditional buttons. All of these buttons here on the steering wheel, they're haptic buttons. You touch them and you can feel it do stuff, but it doesn't actually compress like a normal button would.
I appreciate minimalism sometimes, but it's gotten too cold in the Tesla, whereas the Volkswagen is giving you fresh new things to look at, a fresh interaction. And these two screens actually relate nicely. On the Volkswagen, the back seats are decent, actually on all three of these, but only on the ID4, there is no frunk. There is no usable space up front. You could almost fit a real engine up there.
Everyday Driver is brought to you by Covercraft. Use the code EVERYDAY21 for 10% off your order.
If you're building an SUV in this class, 5-seat, compact, it doesn't make sense to build the architecture of the car any other way except for the battery sandwiched in the floor between the two axles. So therefore, if every SUV is going to be built like this, I'm worried they're all going to drive the same. I just want to know if these are actually fun to drive.
The instant acceleration that's available, the constant torque, the minute you give it any accelerator pedal at all, you will destroy anyone you go up against at a light. And this is the not high performance, not even the big fire-breathing Tesla. It's just Model Y. The Model Y has a steering rack that is faster than most sports cars. It's 10.3 to 1. It's less than 2 turns full lock to full lock, which is an interesting little trick because it makes the car feel surprisingly spry and agile initially.
The Tesla is by far the most engaging to drive. This is just fun.
Everything about the sensation in this wheel, it feels false. It feels what it is, programmed. It doesn't have anything to do with what's actually going on with the wheels. It has to do with what somebody decided the steering should feel like.
All three of these cars are dead. As far as what the road is doing, they're just dead. There's no steering feel. But the Tesla Model Y has the quickest steering ratio and makes it feel quick and nimble.
The Tesla actually has the worst ride of all three. It is the stiffest. It still feels very top heavy. It still actually has a surprising amount of body roll, and it has a stiff and crashy suspension.
To me, Mustangs are all about power, and this should have a lot. That little acceleration burst right there, this does do the Mustang thing in unbridled. Do we have to keep saying unbridled?
Unbridled mode is mysteriously brown. I know somebody was thinking it's a Mustang, Western themes will go with brown, but brown?
The problem with electric architecture like this is everything is dead. There's no steering input. It feels way too soft. The Tesla Model Y beats this handily. This should have a very quick, crisp turn-in, and it doesn't.
Now this rides better than the Tesla Model Y, and interestingly enough, even though its steering rack is far slower, it also handles better. The balance here is very good, and that's the interesting thing about the Mustang name. It feels right. It feels well balanced. It has sports car thinking, good dynamics applied to something that isn't a sports car. The steering, while I wouldn't say it's communicative, it feels natural. The transition from acceleration to braking in this one-pedal driving it's not as fine-tuned and precise as it is in the Tesla. The Ford's not quite there yet, but it's getting close. So while there's no question this doesn't have the involvement or the theater of a traditional Mustang, the Mach-E might be your Mustang for the city.
Volkswagen has built this first edition ID4 with a 201 horsepower electric motor. It moves just fine, and just by virtue of being a torquey electric motor, it's going to be great. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot.
The other two surprise you with their power output and their speed. This just feels like enough.
The ID4 is easy to drive, it's easy to get used to, and it's easy to live with, which is a crucial selling point when people are being introduced to these.
This does drive like an appliance. I am aware of the fact that the steering wheel is connected to the wheels. It does what I tell it to. It has zero information. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't have any sporting character at all.
The suspension is way too soft. Let's go to mode. Oh, I am in sport. Yeah, there's nothing there. No feel, no nothing.
We have a play and a pause button on the pedals down here. What I find ironic about that is that this doesn't do single pedal driving.
But this is technology from the future. Your super duper, amazing tech electric car. What is that? Drum brakes.
More things in the rolling computer category. Below 20 miles an hour, this thing whirs like some sort of computer that is either booting up or about to explode its fan.
This is really a competition of convergence. Teslas are built by software people, whereas Ford and Volkswagen have been building cars for a long time. They're just not too good at the coding thing yet. So who's going to reach this zenith first?
The truth about an electric car, though, is if you drive in a city center, you just think, yeah, electric cars make sense. It's the longer driving where it becomes more difficult, and the living with them is still quite difficult.
If you have 30 or 40 miles range left and you're not sure if you're going to make it, you're going to start Apollo 13ing your way back home, just so you can survive. No more heated seats, no more heated steering wheel, just the cabin heat or air conditioner itself, that's gone. You better start hypermiling your butt off. Yeah, we got to survive until we can get that precious juice.
If we'd all bought sports cars only for the last 20 years, we'd be getting electric sports cars. We didn't. We bought SUVs. This is where we are.
Indeed. But we have to rate them. We can't say, oh, they're all good and they're all about the same, so they're all going to do about the same things, because where's the personality? Where is the dividing line?
The architecture of a CUV, it only comes one way. Those don't have personality to begin with. Now it's electric, which makes it less.
Isn't it deep in the menus somewhere?
It's not. As deep as they go, there's not a personality button, which is a little bit too bad. I have to say that the ID4 is a great first execution by Volkswagen, and it's still third. They're trying so hard for this to be a sci-fi pod that I just can't engage. Tesla is still ruling on interface. Their interface is way beyond everybody else. The way that the car watches the road all the time and shows you all it's doing, and the speed is addictive. All the normal Tesla things are still here in the Y.
Yeah.
It has to go second for me. But I wind up in first with the Mustang because I think there's a semblance of handling. You can like see handling from here. And I also think Ford has done a great job of blending the people that have never thought about driving an electric car and the people that love electric cars. They're right in the middle. So it's accessible, it's welcoming if you've never had an electric car, and it has a bit of personality, not a lot, just a little bit of Mustangness maybe. Maybe it's just the name. But maybe it's just a little more.
Well, funny enough, Tesla, the software, as you said, is great. The power is great. The utilization of the batteries is great. And the network is great. The charging network.
Wonderful. Way above everybody else.
And that quick initial turn-in, it feels the most eager to me. It feels a little bit like there's something resembling a driver's car deep down in there.
You're gonna have to dig.
We're slicing the onion thinly.
Yes, we are.
However, because of the build quality, it's so bad. The Tesla is last for me in that sense. I like how it drives. It's quick and nimble, but it's last. And so that leaves the ID4 as the first try.
Yeah.
But Ford hasn't, well, I can't say they've nailed it right out of the gate, but they've come close. And they still dare call it a Mustang.
Yeah.
And so therefore, the Mustang wins. We're in agreement. It's still winning car comparisons, even though it's electric. So if you're concerned about range, buy a Tesla. Yes, the driving experience is the most fun here, but I almost don't care. I want more personality. I don't just want a screen. I don't want this car to feel like an automotive equivalent of a burner phone.
Now, the fact that Tesla has pulled this off as well as they have, the fact that they've actually built cars that have changed the industry, that's incredibly impressive because it works really well. It just feels a step down in how well it was built, and they charged you more.
I've been skeptical. I have. I've really not wanted to believe. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, baby. I like this thing.
Ford's done a great job with this. Is it a Mustang? Your conclusion will vary, but it is the one here with the most personality, the best steering feel, and the best handling.
Volkswagen's CEO has claimed he's not afraid of Tesla. And to that I say, yes you are. You're absolutely frightened. You're quaking in your boots. But keep putting forth the effort that you are, driving the company, because it's working.
This ID4 is a car maker who makes precision automotive products, sets out to make an electric car. And it works very well, and it feels wonderfully well built. There's a few little nuances I'll go with that are strange.